When Merlin's parents disappeared, his world fell apart. When his best friend died, he lost the ability to enjoy life. For Captain Merlin Acosta, Lanier's death, 2 years prior, feels like yesterday. But when a map from his parents is discovered, he decides to push aside his grief to get closure and follow the route they vanished along 18 years ago. Despite political trouble, Merlin leads his crew into the unknowns of strange galaxies in his quest to find out why his parents never returned. In River of the Galaxy, Merlin fights to keep his crew alive and suppress his prolonged grief and depression. But he must face his own struggles in order to protect the ship and the people aboard. Hello everyone, and welcome once again to the Heir's Lair. I'm your host, Jonathan Taylor. Today's video is once again an arc review. The arc in question, this time being the first book in the Inner Universe series. The first full-length book, and I'll say first novel-length story written by Natalie Kelda. The title of the book in question, just in case the video's title didn't already give it away, is River in the Galaxy. The TLDW for this review is as follows. This book presents a very interesting adventure and exploration story, with a varied cast of interesting characters exploring a strange new part of their setting that challenges them in novel and interesting ways. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then I can only recommend that you actually go out and find the book and read it. In fact, I'll make it easier and put a link to it in the description down below. I do, however, have to issue some content warnings for violence and for drug use, mainly. Okay, with that out of the way, it's time to dig a little deeper, or dive a little deeper, would be perhaps more appropriate, into this book. The plot of the book follows Captain Merlin Acosta as he embarks on a voyage in order to understand what happened to his parents on their last voyage. Making his journey a little bit more difficult are three factors. Sorry, I got an itchy nose now. Anyway, as I said, 3 factors make his journey a little bit more difficult. Firstly, his sponsor keeps him on a deadline, so he can't really explore as freely as he'd perhaps want. Secondly, there are new crew members joining him, who are either old acquaintances or associates of his older acquaintances, which stirs some drama among Merlin's existing crew. And thirdly, Merlin also has his own demons who occasionally surface to haunt him. Oh, and the journey itself brings him, his ship, and his crew through mostly uncharted territory, and puts them on the path of a whole bunch of strange and perhaps difficult to counter new dangers. Suffice it to say, the man has a lot on his plate. That being said, what makes this book distinctive? Well, I'm going to start with the world building, partly because the way authors set their world is of particular interest to me. Partly because this book in particular actually gives me a lot to talk about on this front. Starting with the cover itself, which depicts a sailing ship among stars. That is not a metaphor. That is actually how voyaging and navigation works within this world. With ships that instead of sailing along wind currents, they sail on energy currents and streams that allow them to travel across galaxies and even between galaxies. The ships themselves are also built in such a way that they have their own gravity and their own atmosphere. In practice, that means that the crew or any passengers they would have are able to walk around in or on the ship as though they were under the influence of a regular gravity field, which is not actually how that would work IRL, but I'll let it slide. Another interesting facet of this of the way the story is presented is the way that the society from which the main cast stems is organized. More precisely, the society is divided into various social strata based on their role within the community. Within each of the strata, there is some level of mobility. I'll say that much. And also, each of the strata, rather than being referred to as a class, is referred to as a tier, T-I-E-R, which is a very interesting modernization of the typical take of a stratified society. The biggest problem with the world building, however, stems primarily from its biggest asset, namely the scale. The setting is supposed to be about a civilization that can travel between galaxies. However, within that setting, there is the actual world or the actual setting itself seems to be either extremely sparse or very underdeveloped. I think 3 galaxies are mentioned as having contact between each other. Yet within the 3 galaxies, there are only like 5 ports that are actually described, or 5 potential destinations for any intergalactic voyagers that are being presented, which I have to say is a little disappointing. The book does give somewhat of an explanation as to why that would be the case, but honestly, even with that explanation, the world comes across as too simple, as underdeveloped. Basically, that's the only word I can come up with. Underdeveloped. I think the story could have worked better either if the setting were either featured interplanetary travel or early interstellar travel. In fact, it would actually be improved by this change, given that one of this book's plot points is the fact that there are galaxies separated by asteroid fields. Yeah, not buying it. I would be more likely to buy a story where planets or star systems are divided by asteroid fields, but entire freaking galaxies, that kind of scale, no. That's not how that works. I think Natalie wanted to go big because she thought it would be impressive. However, in this case, big just means deflated here. She doesn't pour enough time to really inflate the setting, to really populate it, to really allow it to come alive. That being said, what she does with the elements she does have is I have to say, quite interesting. I already mentioned the way the social model is laid out. The characterization is actually a great touchstone of that. I have to give her particular praise for how she manages to portray the main character himself, Merlin, and because she explores his demons with a lot of care, with a lot of empathy. However, she does so without undercutting what makes him a competent and respected leader. That is a difficult balance to find, and I am pleased to say that she has in fact found it. The rest of the characters are quite interesting as well. They give off a varied mix of a whole bunch of impressions. All of them are easy enough to tell apart, and all of them come to life within the story in their own distinctive ways. Both in the casual day-to-day scenes where they're just hanging around and conversing, but also in action scenes where they showcase what it is they can do under pressure. And now that I've already mentioned this topic, the action scenes are another mixed bag within the story, because when the scene itself is framed as man versus nature, i.e. when the crew has to counter some kind of peril that comes to them from their environment, then the scene is written in a very easy to follow way that allows the reader to follow how the tension develops, what exactly is going on, and also allows for great insights into how the various characters think and react to the situation at hand. When it comes to smaller scale action scenes like hand-to-hand combat scenes or chases, that kind of tends to go out the window. The sense of scaling is once again gone. It becomes quite a bit harder to really connect the actions described with the results described. I have to say that is a development I am most displeased with. This is doubly surprising when one considers that Natalie actually has a background in historical reenactments, more precisely of the Viking invasions of the British Isles. You would assume she would be better capable of writing smaller scale action scenes, but apparently that is not the case. Oh well. Overall, in spite of some quite noticeable failings, I think this book is a very interesting and engaging presentation of a very potential-laden narrative. My final rating for River in the Galaxy is a 3 out of 5. And that was my review. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed it, well then please leave a like, maybe even share the video wherever you think other people will like it as well. If there is anything you would like to add to this to the video, well that's what the comment section is for. And if you want to see when my next video gets released, well then please subscribe. Sorry about that. Please subscribe. And ideally also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. My own debut book, Heir to the Empire Next Generation, is available at most major book retailers under a master link in the description down below. Right past all of my social media links, which I also suggest you check out, should you choose to. I also have a Patreon in case you want to support me more directly. It's also linked right down there. Until next time, I am Jonathan Taylor, and this has been the Heir's Lair.